Morning, everyone. Let's get started. So, today we are going to see 17th and 18th century art in Europe after the Renaissance. So, there were two major art movements. One is the Baroque, and the other one is the Rococo. So, let's see the Baroque art first. The period of 17th and 18th centuries in Europe is called the Age of Kings. Some of the most powerful rulers in history occupied the thrones of various countries during this time. This time period could equally be called the Age of Colonial Settlement. The Spanish, the Portuguese, the Dutch, the England, and the French had established paramount settlements in North and South America. Baroque art was an art movement during the turbulent 17th and 18th centuries. Baroque art differs from that of the Renaissance. That is the key point. So the Baroque art is basically full of emotion, energy, and movement. So let's see it in detail. The colors are more vivid in Baroque art than in Renaissance, with greater contrast between colors and between light and dark. Baroque art has been called dynamic, sometimes even theatrical. In architecture and sculpture, where the Renaissance sought a classic simplicity, the Baroque favored ornamentation as rich and complex as possible. So let's compare the Renaissance and the Baroque art styles. So let's see the architecture first. So the left one is the Renaissance and the right one is the Baroque art. Can you find the difference between these two styles of architecture? Everyone take a look at them and let's compare how they are different.
Wait, are you streaming something? Because I can't see it.
Oh, you cannot see it?
No.
How about others? Everyone can see the these two.
I can see it.
Okay. Okay. Very good.
Okay, so it's just me then. Wait.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right. So can you tell me what's the difference between these two architecture style, the interior of the church?
Would the interior of the church be more like, it looks like it was made from like a 1 point?
Oh, yeah. Very good, which means it's very balanced and neat, right?
Yeah.
Very good. Very good notification. Very nice. Now, how about Baroque art?
They both look the same to me, except one looks like it's a little bit more angelic. There's it's more, I don't know how to explain it. It's more religion based. There's more angels, more painting. It's more angelic.
Yes, very good. So the Baroque, the interior looks like it has the complicated and ornamentational features, right? Very good. So as you can see, the Renaissance architecture style shows simple, logical, and classical. And on the other hand, the Baroque architecture shows ornamentational and sophisticated. Now, let's look at sculptures. The left one is the Michelangelo's David Statue in the Renaissance era. And I'm sorry, the left one. And the right one is the Gian Lorenzo Bernini's Saint Teresa in the Baroque era. So of course, these two sculptures are amazingly beautiful and reach the highest technique in fine art. Yes, but the first feeling for these two sculptures are totally different. Can you find the difference between these two sculptures?
Same thing. It's more angelic.
Yeah. What
The
else?
Renaissance is more simplistic.
Very good.
I was gonna say one shows like a naked dude, while the other one they actually have clothes on.
Yes.
More appropriate.
Yes. Very good. Exactly. So the David statue, now the left one shows the beauty of balance. It shows the ideal beauty. And it is very bright to celebrate the hero, right? On the other hand, the Baroque sculpture, the Saint Teresa, is dramatic, even theatrical, and it shows heavy light contrast by locating the sculpture in the dark spot and using window light from the top of the roof. So that is one of the feature of the Baroque art. Using the dramatic lighting is the most famous feature of the Baroque art, even in sculpture. Now let's see paintings. The left one is the Raphael's, the painting, the School of Athens in the Renaissance era. And the right one is the Peter Paul Rubens, the raising of the cross in the Baroque era. So again, what's the difference between the Renaissance painting and the Baroque art style painting? What's the difference?
What is the difference between the two art?
These two paintings, yes. What's the difference?
Okay, so I'm gonna say that the first one, he used 1-point perspective.
Very good, peaceful, and it has the 1-point perspective, for the balance. Very good. How about this?
The other one, well, diagonalize, something like that. And it's kind of like a lot of people in the picture, so I'm not sure what kind of perspective he used.
Yeah, it's harder to see which perspective he's using. Yes. Now, how about the lighting? How different?
In the first one, a lot of light everywhere, but in the second one, the light, I think it just mainly towards, I think that's Jesus.
Very good. Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. So the Raphael's painting is basically following the perspective rule, like Anna said. So which means it is well balanced and it is calm, peaceful, bright, logical. On the other hand, Rubens' painting is focused on the subject, yes, not really followed perspective rule, and it shows deep contrast with bright highlight and very dark shadow. Also, the movement is so dramatic and the whole painting mood is very emotional. So, the conclusion, the Renaissance art shows stillness, logicality, peace and calm, classicism, and brightness. And the Baroque art shows motion, emotion, turbulence, grandeur, and contrast. So that's the difference. So please remember the feature of the art movement. The Renaissance is very, calm and peaceful and logical and balanced. The Baroque art is very emotional and turbulence, and it has very strong contrast in their work of art. So based on this Baroque art features, we're gonna see two Baroque artists today. The first artist is Caravaggio. Caravaggio was an Italian painter, and his painting combined a realistic observation of the human state, both physical and emotional, with the dramatic use of lighting. Let's see his work of art. It's just amazing. Like this. So look at the lighting and then the stories in this painting. Isn't it so beautiful? Yeah. So he picked the painful moment when the Jesus Christ got the crown. And he is one of the most famous Baroque artists. So look at the beautiful light, the lighting, and the beautiful skin texture. It looks like real, right? And the painting's emotion is also very realistic. So feels like we are in the middle of the painful moment. And this painting is about Saint Thomas checking Jesus' wound with the surprised, profound face. Looks like real, right? This is Caravaggio's another biblical episode painting. Judith saved her people by seducing and beheading the Assyrian general Holofernes. The same topic was depicted in the Renaissance era, which is the left painting. So Judith, this is Judith in the left painting, looks very peaceful and calm. And it is hard to believe that she is after the battle. She looks even elegant. On the other hand, Caravaggio's painting is dramatic and dynamic with detailed description. So it is like, capturing the moment of the event with the details. And this is David with head of the Goliath by Caravaggio. So this same theme made by different era we just saw by Michelangelo. So these are the same theme about the David. So even though Michelangelo and the Caravaggio depicted the same David in their work of art, their Davids look totally different. Michelangelo's David is made as a hero, and he has an idealized body because he is a hero. On the other hand, the Caravaggio's David doesn't have an ideal body, just depicted as a normal human. Also, Caravaggio shows the moment David took the Goliath's head with the unpleasant feeling. He shows the emotions here and the stories here. Let's move on to the next Baroque artist, Rembrandt. Rembrandt was a Dutch draftsman, painter, printmaker, and he is generally considered one of the greatest visual artists in the history of art and the most important in Dutch art history. This Rembrandt's largest and the most famous painting was made for one of the three headquarters of Amsterdam's civic guard. These groups of civilian soldiers defended the city from attack, and Rembrandt was the first to paint all of the figures in a civic guard in action. And he has an excellent technique to capture a moment in his painting, like while the sea in a storm. It feels like a rage of the sea in this painting. And also, he was very famous with his self-portrait style. He settled the traditional portrait manner in terms of pose, lighting, and mood. So many of artists followed this portrait painting style. So I'm going to share a video about the amazing Baroque artist Rembrandt.
Rembrandt is in this room with us. I'm looking at him. He's looking at me.
He's incredibly present in this self-portrait from 1660. We're here in the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C.
Rembrandt made the self-portrait a subject in a way that it had never been. His images of himself are so intimate. They are so carefully observed. In a sense, he teaches me how to look closely.
And how even to look at oneself with the honesty and directness that he is looking at himself with in the mirror.
We're in a room filled with Rembrandts. And if you look at the other portraits, for instance, look at the portrait of a young man, you get a sense of the social distance that would have existed in the studio when Rembrandt was painting. And this man sat with a kind of reserve, and there was a social propriety.
The young man that we see here likely commissioned the portrait and was paying Rembrandt to make something for him. So there was definitely a hierarchy there. And he's distanced too. There's all this foreground space in front of the figure that is absent here. His left elbow is in our space.
Maybe it's because Rembrandt doesn't need to flatter this sitter. And in fact, his purpose seems to be just the opposite, to find every imperfection, every wrinkle that expresses the life that this face has lived. But Rembrandt's self-portraits through his career were really of different types. There were the examples where he's showing himself as a young man, very well dressed. There are times when he's in costume with Saskia, his wife, on his knee. But then later, in self-portraits like this, you really see this introspective look.
And you feel the way that Rembrandt layered this thick paint on the face, and the rest is very loosely brushed, but the face has a sense of being really worked, the light moving across it from light to dark and light again, and then picking up folds and picking up the hair on his face.
But it's also the muscles and the changes, the subtle shifts in the architecture of that face that is being brought out by those brush strokes. I want to figure out how he's done it.
If you think about the Caravaggio-esque use of dramatic lighting, so you go from an area of stark illumination to an area of shadow, usually that area is demarcated in a very clear way. Here in Rembrandt, there's a movement in and out of light that I think adds to that emotion.
And look at the coloration as well. And I'm seeing greens and yellows and blues and reds and browns.
And grays.
So the intimacy is two parts. It's because of Rembrandt's own careful observation about what he's seeing, but it's also about the fact that we can feel his hand moving the brush across this surface. And so there's a kind of double intimacy.
Well, we do know that this was especially a vulnerable moment in Rembrandt's career. He had been a very famous, sought-after portrait painter in Amsterdam, but had reached too far financially. He had gone into debt, and just a year or two before this painting, he had declared bankruptcy and had to sell his assets to pay his creditors.
His wife, that he loved very much, Saskia, had died. But I think that you can step into the biographical a little too much and read this painting through the pain of those experiences. Clearly, this is a man who has lived a very complex and rich life.
As people do by the time they reach the age that Rembrandt has. So we don't really need to read the biography to know that by the time you reach 53, that one is wiser, one has experienced, one has lived through the death of loved ones. That's what life is.
And that's what Rembrandt has taken as his subject here.
All right. How is the artist? Isn't it so amazing? Mhm. Yeah. All right. Now let's move on to the next art movement, Rococo. So the age of Rococo is development and extension of the Baroque style. The term Rococo was a play on the word Baroque, but also it refers to the French words for rocks and shells, forms that appears as decorative motifs in architecture, in furniture, and in painting. The Rococo subjects and mood of art is slightly different from the Baroque, even though it is an extension of the Baroque. So let's see in detail. So like Baroque, Rococo is extravagant, ornate style, but there are several points of contrast. Baroque was an art of cathedral and palaces. On the other hand, Rococo was more intimate, suitable for the aristocratic home and the drawing room. Baroque is large scale, massive, dramatic, but Rococo has a smaller scale and a light-hearted, playful quality. So let's see the examples. So the left one is the Baroque style architecture we just saw, and the right one is the Rococo style architecture. So these are all complicated and ornamentational, but slightly it looks different, right? What's the difference?
It's more space on the right.
Yeah, it's a different like
Yeah,
background.
it's like the Rococo is like more pushed back.
Very good. Yes, you got the point. Everyone, very good. So Baroque style is dark and grandeur. However, the Rococo style is bright, lovely, feminine, and sophisticated. Let's see the paintings. The left one is the Baroque styles painting by Caravaggio. And the right one is the Rococo style painting. So these two paintings are well using deep contrast of lighting, but seems very different. What's the difference between these two paintings?
The Rococo looks more like a peaceful setting, and the other one looks more like a I guess like a bad setting.
Yes, exactly. Very good. What else?
The lighting.
Uh-huh.
Like in the first one, the lighting is just all on David.
Yeah.
And the right one is just the entire photo.
Very good. Yes. How about the size of the subject?
The left is more more closer to you. And
Yes.
the right far
The
away.
other one is more spaced out, yeah.
Very good. Very good. See, that is the difference. Very good, everyone. So most of the Baroque art described biblical episodes. So it's very heavy and dark and serious. On the other hand, the Rococo painting depicts daily life and nature of novels, and it shows light and bright and very lovely happening here. So let me share a video to show more on Rococo art. So these are all the Rococo style work of art. All right, let's stop right here.
Professor,
Yes.
so is all the Rococo like paintings and stuff, is that like good, like good vibes, like like peaceful and like happiness in every painting?
Yeah, yeah. So the Rococo artist recorded like the novels, the lovely, um, very peaceful life, like just a daily life, not the serious happenings. So most of the Rococo art is like that. Yes, it's very lovely. So that's it for today. I hope you understand the differences art styles by the art eras. Now, the Renaissance versus the Baroque, and Baroque versus Rococo. So please review all the differences after this meeting. That's going to be very important for the final. And we had a discussion today related to this chapter. This is the topic. So everyone, please read the e-textbook, page 496, Slavery and Colonialism in 18th Century Art, and discuss 2 works of art in the e-textbook. So that's today's topic, discussion 11.2. Any question?